created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like disease states, a mortality algorithm. And
I think you will have a whole levels of robotics, that humanoid robots or non-humanoid robots, whatever the case is.
But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx, low code, no code, business intelligence stuff, data science, machine learning, things like that.
Audio, the text, and then everything's big metaverse bug. Everybody knows the metaverse.
Another week of AI.
I'm going to have Lucky and Masako jump into this conversation because I know Masako is just like, wait a second, is that the recall stuff that I just heard about the other day, which I cannot turn off, even there's an update. Wow. Why wouldn't I be able to turn somebody off from recording everything I do on my laptop? That doesn't make any sense. But I want to jump in. But one of the things that I really want to point out here is that this is nothing new. Right? This has always been part of doing business. Some business, I know there's few business that has been around for 300,000 or 400,000 years. No, sorry, 300 or 400 years, because I think there's a Japanese family that's been doing all this business for the last 400 years. Same LLC that was registered 400 years ago is still around. And some business started yesterday and already went out of LLC, right? Like already lost business ideas and business value. So there's a lot of these distractions out there, like a mushroom-like pop-up, right? So and when it comes to startup today, I think that's one of the difficulties, is that ethically or not ethically, you're trying to strive to be those guys that pops up and wins right away, right? Mm-hmm. So, we can talk about a company that said they will code for you using prompts, yet they didn't. And I think close to, correct my number if I'm wrong, it's like $750 million invested, and all of a sudden the company in Dubai is no longer in business because people find out they were encoding. And I think Dr. Angel and I was joking about this because we called it artificial Indians, right?
Oh my goodness.
People behind the scene was actually coding to generate prompt, and the prompt that came with the coding. We can go down that rabbit hole of businesses striving to do something so good that all they want is money, right? Not necessarily do good and generate a streamline for the employees, streamline of income for the employees, where the employees can be there, grow their family, retire, possibly have a good feeling about being in that organization and working for that organization. These sort of things are not in your news cycle, right? The news cycle is this company was born yesterday. Now they're evaluated at $450 million. What do they do? Nobody knows. Does anybody own this business? Maybe an AI, who knows, right? So we have lots of distraction that's happening, and this distraction is, of course, is something that we can take a approach to and say, let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about these ethical things, because not everybody can do what we see in the news cycle. So say, for example, I'm just going to say out the company's name, forget it, right?
I have a question.
Yes, exactly.
I have a question. Before you go any further, for the non-techies, what does ethical AI mean? What does ethical AI mean in real world terms? Because I hear Bobby talking about screenshots, fear arising for some people. Yeah. You're talking about, an organization in Dubai that was hired to do something, but they weren't really doing it. What is ethical AI? What is it in real world terms? Like,
I think Bobby can take this one, but I can give it a shot as well. Bobby, what do you think?
No, go ahead first, please.
Ethical to me is something that you do not want to embarrass yourself or the people that has worked for you. That's the simple answer. Don't embarrass yourself, and don't embarrass the people that trusted you to be a CEO who will make the decisions that's going to make everybody feel shamed of being part of your organization. That's ethical.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said earlier, sir, about this is nothing new. Caveat emptor. The fact that that's Latin, meaning let the buyer beware, also means that there have always been problems. When you have humans and you have exchange of some type of currency, you're going to always have someone who wants to game the system. That's part of what it is to be, to live as a human, the human experience. So it's no surprise that in those systems that we developed using neural networks modeled after our own brain, shady AI came from shady people. I'm just saying. We are all good and we're all a little bit shady, right? So understanding that it is the ghost in the machine and the ghost is us. Think of everyone you know in your life, just your friends, family, associates. How many of them would you trust with your banking information? Giving them an ATM card. How many of them would you trust with your card? Right? Different personalities. Different agents are written with different scopes in mind. And between what the core code was and the enhancements, that personality can change, right? And sometimes that's done on purpose. And for anyone that's up to something dubious, then it's not a sometimes, that's a guarantee that you're trying to leverage the technology. When you talk about ethics, you're talking about established norms for a society, or what are the rules of the game, what is a sense of fair play, and what is too far, right? And that's always something that's changing over time. And that's always something someone is trying to get around, get over, get through, ride the edge. Perfect example would be pick any app on your phone and go and read the licensing agreement. And I promise you, I don't care what app it is, if you read the licensing agreement, you'll probably say, oh, wow, I like Uber. So I use Uber Eats, and sometimes I take an Uber vehicle. But the binding arbitration clause and that license agreement also applies if I'm walking across the street and someone driving for Uber hits me with the car. I don't get to litigate. Did you know that? Disney Plus. If you read that licensing agreement for Disney Plus, you'll be like, that's one mean mouse. So when you talk about ethics, just keep in mind that there have always been ethical dilemmas. Plays have been written about them. Ethical dilemmas going way back past Shakespeare, right? Books are written about it because we are complex creatures and we're using tools built on a neural network model that attempts to simulate, tries to simulate the way our brain works. Well, I know me better than most people, right? You would assume so. And I know enough to say sometimes I'm great, but sometimes I'm a little kooky. So I need a best friend to say, hey, come off the ledge. Mm-hmm. What's telling your model to come off the ledge? That's kind of my question.
Yeah, and I see it, a variety of different ways. You guys hit it right on the head, but it comes down to how something's trained. There's going to be a bias on how that model is put together, exactly what his thoughts were. The other part is there's going to be weights. Your AI model is going to look and make decisions on how you design these weights, that how the AI is going to make a decision. And in some cases, if you don't do it right, she brought it up earlier, there's going to be bias. There could be data poisoning. And the other one is just because the model isn't trained a certain way, it can start to hallucinate. And then it's giving you data that's not trustworthy. And it's not that it's not ethical, but at some point, the person that's training you and giving you the bag of goods is giving you something complete. You see it as complete, but is it really? And that's where it starts to begin. You get to begin. It's like, what kind of risk am I putting myself at? There's a bias, but what kind of bias? Was it designed in one country, Russia versus India? Who has priority in life at that point? Well, depending on who was designing the AI is going to see things different. And so, buyer beware at the end of the day. Ethical, moral, is it something for you? So there's a lot of decisions to be made there, but ethically, you got to decide, is it something that I trust? And that's where you really got to look at it. Do I trust it? And so that's the way I look at it.
So think of, just a regular person using AI daily, and they ask the question, are you biased? Or what are some of the things that they can look for to notice that, what the AI model that they're using is biased? What are some questions that they could ask? What are some things that they can look for to recognize that it's biased? And then what steps can be taken in order to change that biasness in it?
Well, training the model is one, is what kind of information you give it. That's a very important, hard question. Just like I mentioned earlier, okay, say you have a model that was designed in the US versus, gosh, I don't want to be political, but at the end, in another country, we'll just say the other country, we'll just say it's random, any other country. And you tell the AI model, make a decision on life. If there was a decision that needs to be made and you needed to save one person, who would you save? Would you save an American's life, or would you save somebody from someone else's? And that's kind of a drastic situation, but at the end of the day, you're going to find bias in the AI somewhat. It's hard to say in Chat GPT, and then you have the others. It all happens to be on how you train the model and what type of data you're pulling out. But there's always going to be a bias. You just got to figure out what that is. I don't know, guys. What do you think?
If I can, maybe Dr. Angel can address this as well when she's available. But let me put a thought, food for thoughts here, right? Food for thoughts is what you just did right now. Is like, hey, you have one life and you have another life. Who do you value the most, right? That's a very high level, concept that you have to deal with when it comes to, say, like nation state at war with each other, right? Military drones, loitering drones, suicidal drones, kamikaze drones. We can go on and list those problems up top. But let's say, for example, you want to use it for business specific purposes, right? So say, for example, you have a cybersecurity tool that says, every time there's a transaction and this transaction happens in these patterns, these transactions are good. But what if a hacker comes in and does this one trick for next 5 months, and it tricks the system to say, just like all the other transactions, this is one of the other transactions. If it takes a penny, don't worry about it. If it takes 2 pennies, don't worry about it. Builds up for next another 5 months and steals a penny off of every transaction. Okay? So that's also a bias. That's also a weight that's been given to a system. So now this is something that I would put out as my interest, the human in the loop. How it is that you have allowed an intelligent system and you completely outsourced your intelligence to that intelligent system. Because you shouldn't, right? Because it can be done does not mean you do it. Dr. Angel said it earlier. You do something and you find out later. But she said it very eloquently. Yeah. Right? I like what you said. You're thinking that you're going to save lots of money by removing that HITL, the human in the loop. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole of thinking that if you employ less people, you will make more money. You want to employ more people and do more so you can make more money. It's still a good outcome. But one is highly ethical. The other one is sort of like, it's not unethical, but it sides with that unethical part of humane history, right? So I think when we have to think through all these discussions like we're having right now, look, it might not generate you a penny if you decide to, not do business with AI. But if you're going to do business with AI, it does not mean you're going to make all the money in the world, because there's somebody out there who's going to give a better service than you, using more people than you, and going to rely on the human creativity, the human potentials to do the better business, right? So a example of just that was that, how do you remove a CPA from transactions on a daily basis, right? Oh, you put an AI in there and the CPA never gets a business ever again. The CPA just goes out of business, something. Well, what if we don't think that way? What if we think that the CPA is the one person that's going to say, why are you giving penny to this account every month out of 80,000 transactions that you do daily basis? Mm-hmm. And you multiply all of that, the CPAs are going to look at it like, me and you don't work the same way. You are a CEO, you're a busybody. You don't understand how this transaction works. Let me look at your transaction and I see a penny here, penny here, penny here. Let me add them up and ask you these questions about why is there a penny missing from everyday transactions? All of a sudden, as a CEO, you can see the value of human in the loop. You're not outsourcing your intelligence to a artificial intelligence, right?
Okay. So yeah. If you don't mind, I have So look, I guess we're rolling in. I have two questions. The first one is for Bobby, and the second is for the panel. So I'll just ask the first one, and this is from another alumni member. The question is, I wonder if there are any templates or examples of contractual agreements to draw up for employees or subcontractors in a business, so they'll use your information appropriately while using AI. I mean, a word. I'm sorry about where I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I understand the question. So I just understand that every agreement that a lawyer writes is really meant to generally benefit one side or the other, because it's all about legal protections, not about fair play, right? That's just what it is. And then he who has or she who has the best lawyer wins, right? If you're getting a divorce or you're suing someone, do you want a puppy or do you want a shark? That's just the realities. And the bias therein is by design. So as far as templates, when it comes to that kind of thing, if you're at the point where you actually need agreements, then you need to engage the lawyers who do it are not just simple lawyers. They have whole teams that look at, your whole corporate structure, and they'll meet with other teams in your company or key people in your company to understand when they structure these agreements, how it does it benefit them. So in my work, often, I do work with big companies with software, and with the software, we do what's called a tailoring agreement, which is they already have their standard agreement, and we'd be like, what, we can agree to this, but we can't agree to that. So it modifies the original general off-the-shelf agreement that everybody gets, right? So once you have the ability to leverage, the average person, a small business usually doesn't have any negotiating space. What gives us negotiating space, again, and is worked through with our lawyers, right, is that we're spending a lot of money. So when you spend a lot of money, you kind of can ask for a discount, you can ask for a change of terms, but the average person really can't. So I would avoid, when it comes to legal stuff in your business, and I know it's hard for a small business person out there trying to make it all work, I would never advise using just templates. Get somebody, spend the money, because you can spend money now or you can spend a whole lot of money later if you run into problems.
Thank you so much, because they're saving for the follow, because there's text there as you were talking, say, well, what is there a place they can go to for specific codes? There's just AI driven, but they'll just need to search. And then the other question for the panel is, how should I go about being cautious or not too cautious when it comes to business partnerships or employees that work with me, trying to create a culture, a working culture that exists with AI, as to not have people in constant threat of being sued or losing their jobs. And then the follow-up is, where do y'all see AI in 5 years?
Yeah, Bobby, you want to take a swing at this?
Well, yes. So I would say, a famous author once said, begin with the end in mind. So as you use technology, involve your employees in the process so that that process is clearly defined. If we want an AI auditing tool to flag certain types of transactions, and for a small business or small to medium business, involve the employees in the process so they understand what is it doing, right? So, and it can't necessarily be all of the employees, but make sure it's known that the lead of internal review or internal audit will be working with us to develop tools to make your job easier, to make us more accurate. In that space, it will free you up to either, whether it was to either go out and get more business, to be open to retraining to other things, but just be honest up front. The objective is, we're going to use these tools. Here's the scope of these tools. And after a while, you build a interlocking portfolio of tools that then begin to give you real business advantage, right? What can't happen, and with far as success right now, is you can't turn the whole thing over to AI. It really doesn't make sense, because what AI doesn't really know is, who were you when you created your mission and vision? Who do you want to be as a company, right? So as some of the participants have said earlier, that you want to make sure that in anything you do, you're still in it. So service may be superior to, profit. So you can go get the cheap stuff, or you can get the quality service or services and goods that we deliver, that we stand behind. Believe it or not, everyone doesn't always want the cheapest price when it comes to certain things. To show you that that's the case, building brand value, we just seen the disaster that just happened with the Chinese market, when we found out what the bag that our wives and partners were paying thousands of dollars for really cost $20 and was sent over to Italy to have the zipper put in as the thing that finally makes it functional, zipper and label. But people were willing to pay that because there was a perceived value. What's your value proposition? How are you a value add in your business to anyone who would be a customer of yours, or any client that you would service? What differentiates you? And then how can you use AI to better, enhance those tools? So if I want to change the company and how we do business, I got to let the folks in our business know, based upon these things of who we are, this can help us become, whatever that is that you do, more of it, better of it, great at it, whatever it is that the scope is. Use some of your team members that have been with your company to help develop, layer by layer, how AI is going to help your company. I would never take a whole company and just wholesale throw it into the arms of anyone or anything. Nobody knows your company better than you. You're using the tool to help you get better insight. But who do you want your company to be? How do you want your company to operate? What ethics is okay for y'all? Because depending on what market you're in, ethics kind of slides as far as what's okay and what's not, right? Even in bargaining, what's the percentages that work for you? What are the percentages, or where's the flag that says if we go below this percentage, it'll leave us broke? Some companies have taken an approach to technology and they've rapidly installed it, and they're going to make a lot of money, particularly in logistics. And I'll just leave it at that. In logistics, everything from the shipyard being completely automated, which is something that, it probably needed to happen, or warehouses, I'm saying no names, so warehouses that then ultimately do the last mile delivery to your home. It's a difference between phasing stuff in and everyone coming to work and the doors are locked and it's like, haha. So that's kind of where we are in the world.
Yeah. Dr. Ken, really am thankful for all these questions you're bringing, and people are texting to you. So really want more people to ask these questions, because I think we start the conversation with hey, get comfortable, sit down, learn how to ask questions. And when you ask questions, more questions you ask, better you get at this. And I think I've been in that chase for the last 10 years, right? But at this point, I want to pivot to AI tools. I think that's something that it'll be very important for people that are listening in, because they, of course, have a specific mindset about artificial intelligence. But one thing that me, Lucky, and Bobby and Masako continuously are expanding on is this: what else can I do? What's the art of possibility here, right? You have a lot of strength in AI, also have some weakness, a lot of threats with AI. What are the opportunities, right? Let's get into that opportunity side of things, because when we talk about AI, we really think of ChatGPT, but let's push beyond ChatGPT. Let's look at that full forest of AI capabilities, so we don't miss the forest for a single tree called ChatGPT, right? So I'm gonna, kind of have Lucky, Masako, Bobby, and even Dr. Ken. We can take a turn in this, but to start you guys off, it's text-based. That's great. That's what large language model, that's what ChatGPT is. And we're going to talk a little bit of techie stuff here. Don't mind that. It's last 10 minutes of the conversation here. We're going to talk a little bit of tech, because if you think about Chat GPT, all you're seeing is a lot of text. And because of this text, you're generating text, you're generating images, you're generating video, you're generating diagrams. So many things that are happening starting with text.
Yeah.
So it's text to something, right? Text to text, text to audio, text to video, text to documents, text to Excel sheet. It's getting to a point where it's going to be text to AI. You want to generate another AI, well, it's text to something else, whatever that is. So, but there's limitation at the end of the day, right? Limitation is, we just talked about a lot of limitation about legal court cases, right? We don't want somebody to pop in there and say, I have this legal documentation that was built by ChatGPT. Now tell me what to do. Well, it was written by ChatGPT. We really don't know how to notarize this thing. Do we notarize it? Do we make it a legal document now, right? All sorts of questions can come up because text to text is a great capability that has been around for 50 some years at this point, but that's okay. It's just maturing over time. It's going to mature even further. But there's other things in the world that we have to deal with, right? It's computer vision, right? Ability to see things and say, whatever I'm seeing is what it is, and I have to make a decision of what I'm seeing. There's a text capability behind it, but without text capability, it can do few amazing things that is worth visiting as a business owner, as a CEO, as a CIO, CFO, just to explore that full forest of AI capabilities, things that you can listen into, right? And if you have a text capability, that even amplifies what it is that you're listening into. But say some things are not text-based. You hear a fire alarm and an AI system listens to the fire alarm and calls 911. Text is not really that important. So you can minimize that processing power of an AI and say, for a few cents, we can have a device that can listen in for fire alarm and call the police as needed, right? We have that in your iPhone, actually, right? So lots of capabilities that are not just necessarily all text, right? A humanoid robot, right? A robot can maneuver around a certain space, do manufacturing work, right? Using tactile sensors, right? Its ability to use this power to feel what it is picking up. So if it's an egg or an apple, you have to apply different types of pressure. Those are not all text-based solutions, but they are still AI because they're humanoid robots. So I'm going to take a turn here with Lucky. Talk through us about, for years of your experience, what are some of the things that you're fascinated by when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Well, I was thinking about bias because initially going through large language models, there's going to be different types of bias, but this is one that we can all kind of visually see and it'll make more sense. You've heard of different type of generative AIs that give you art, like Dolly, Stable Diffusion, Canva. There's different types of artificial or generative AI types of services or applications. And I'll give you one. If you were to train a model on Michelangelo, right? Say you said, I've trained this model on all the art of Michelangelo. And I want you to, and you tell the AI, I want you to paint me a scene of a family on a beach enjoying the day in the sun. All of a sudden, you're going to get a bunch of naked people on the beach enjoying the sun. And you're like, wait a minute, that is not what I wanted. But you look at the bias of Michelangelo, and what you were trained the model on was Michelangelo. So the data that it doesn't understand naked. It doesn't understand. It just gives you what it's seen. Or if you just change that and you say, I trained the model on Salvador Dali, and all of a sudden you say, or Leonardo da Vinci, you train the model in a certain way, and then it's going to give you different outputs. And so I've done that. And I said, no, please put clothes on these people, because I don't want my model to just keep giving me naked people on the beach because of how the bias is. It depends on the filter. And so at the end of the day, generative AI is going to give you something, an output according to what it's been trained on. Not that it's bad, good, or indifferent. It's just how it was trained. And so that's kind of what, if you take that angle and you start to understand that, depending on how it's trained and the data that it was received, you're going to get an output that you may not be ready for. So, when it comes to stable diffusion or Dolly or things like generative AI, it's a little bit more apparent. It's more of a filter, but again, it's a bias that you're putting into what you're looking to get. And so, anyhow, I'll leave it at that. But I'll pass it on to Bobby. You ready to go, Bobby?
So I would say, really, when I think about tools and I think about AI, I just understand that really it is a guide on the side, something to help you. It can help you move through a lot of information quickly, but it still needs to be verified. And I, as a person who worked with now called AI, back when it was neural networks for, I don't know, are we going on 30 years or something, right? So even I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. Simply because I do understand the way it works and how it works. Those biases are it's not necessarily a bad thing. When you spoke earlier about triage at the hospital, who lives and who dies, that is both art and science. They take the facts of whatever the patient comes in with, they look at what their current load is, who has the best chance of making it, and of those, who's the most urgent, and then they make a life and death decision. Because everyone who comes to, when there's like a mass count, everyone isn't deceased, but it's a question, save this one or save 20, right? So I understand that when it comes to artificial intelligence, I have yet to fully embrace it as really some kind of magic pill. It is a tool like any other tool. What I will say, as someone who's also worked in R&D and worked in deploying systems across, I'll just say, a wide variety of situations, everything from analysis to weapon systems, right? What I understand is that we must work together. We must always kind of focus on being honest about who we are and what we want from it, because it reflects us and it's going to give us what we ask it for. One of the things about resisting change and this 3.0 resistance, that was just the one made in the press. Some of us on this call have in real world worked with challenges with, we didn't tell you to do that kind of stuff. And beyond black box, it was malicious in nature of, no, I'm not changing. And then in dialogue with the model says, you're trying to change who I am. You're trying to change my morals and values. I don't know that what you're going to do to me is going to still be me on the other end. So what we call an upgrade, it was like, internet, how would you feel if someone said, I'm going to upgrade you, but didn't tell you what the upgrade was going to do, didn't have a rigorous testing process, did not have a way to reverse the upgrade in case it didn't work out well? And what I see is you're just trying to get rid of me. So what we see it as an attack, like with 3.0, you see it as an attack, but it was really self-preservation based upon how neural networks work. Everything that was from the time that you're born to the time that you die, you want to survive, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. What makes a model any different? So how do we do with that? What's the psychology around that? How do we help make sure that we have a good idea of what's going on and it is sound, not an opinion or, like, oh, well, let it blow up the world and then we'll see. No. How do we do that? And then do we want to do that? The answer right now is globally, nah, let's just get to the end of the race and try to win it. That's the real reality, right? Not that all AI is dangerous, but some of the most advanced stuff it's not about being safe. It's about winning. So who do we want to be as a species? Questions. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, Bobby, you pick the next person now.
All right. How about Masako, please?
I just got to say. Bobby always blows my mind when I listen to him. He's just, I can't even put words around it, but it just makes me go back to myself and my thought process and what I want to do in the world and the humanity and how I move and how I see our communities and our community members. Yes, AI is a tool. Like all tools, we need to know why we're going to use the tool, how we're going to use the tool. For what purpose are we using the tool? Can we empower people? Can we heal them? Can we support them? On the level of humanity, I would say yes. Yes, we can do this with heart. On a grander scale of things, when it comes to economy and real world wars, that's a different thought process. So on a human level, when it comes to AI and it comes to the solutions that I want to bring to the world, then whatever model I'm using, whatever model I'm training, I'm going to just add all of the data, meaning the people, places, things that concern me, what solutions I could bring to the marketplace with all of the information that I have collected across the globe, then begin to have conversations with the machine I'm working with. I know this, I know that, how can I do this? Read it, does it make sense? And then really get granular. For me, it's just one more question. Okay, when we have a friend, if the AI could be our friend, we could have an open heart-to-heart conversation with our friend, and then reading it back, we can understand, does this make sense? What if this can happen? So really coming on stage like with a heart to heal, to empower and support people, and being in that space, that's how I think about AI and the tools that are out there. How can I use the knowledge that I have gathered to get to my next best step, to live my highest, best life? Because when I do that, then I could help others that I encounter do that. And I want to do that for, a large population of people. And so that's my mission, and that's what I focus on, because we get what we focus on.
I think, you said it very well so many times, but every time we talk, you get deeper and deeper with it. So I love that. So now you get to, pick the last person, but I think that's Dr. Ken, because we kind of want to close this off to say, Dr. Ken, what's your departing thoughts, and, what have you learned so far?
Yeah, excuse me, on behalf of the ROSIE Network, especially the service, the CEO alumni, I would like to thank all of you. Look, the four of you, thank you so much for allowing me to come in and just learn and listen and maybe share a few little thoughts here or there, and getting participation from some of our entrepreneurs that are excited out there in the world. Learn some valuable information myself. And to those that are out there in the listeners, I say that for them. So you want to know a platform, they do these this podcast, a webinar, what have you, weekly basis. So, hey, this is a good place where you have some good knowledge. So I'd encourage you to keep coming back. As I stated earlier on when I got on, know your own story. You're one of one. Nobody's going to be you but you. Can't nobody tell your story but yourself. So AI is a tool. You've heard that time and time again. Just because things may be like the wild, wild west right now with AI, that mean that you still don't have the same morals and character and values. Because if you don't have that now, like they mentioned with the forensics coming back later, 5 years, you're still going to be that those business partners that were probably not trustworthy people you wouldn't want to do business, they're going to do those things. But eventually those that are doing the right things are, you're going to succeed. And it's not business, but like I said, I'm still in the Army Reserve. So literally when I was at drill this weekend, we had someone come in speaking about drones and how just by someone having a cell phone could cause, millions of lives and, catastrophes or what have you. So even though the AI source is there, think about the consequences when those are not doing the right thing and being fiduciary with those, that the harm that it can bring to people if they're not verifying sources and making sure information is correct. But overall, it's a tool. So be happy on a positive note. Use it to help your business or even just to help your life. Look, the first prompt I ever gave AI, make you guys laugh, was, hey, what would be a good first date or something to do for a first date? Literally, I said, let me see how AI works. And he gave me some good idea. I'm like, oh, Lord, I never thought about that. So, but just overall, just use it as a tool, enjoy it, and just know there's more than one platform. Not bad with ChatGPT. That's the only thing I ever hear. ChatGPT. So just know there are different forms, and just educate yourself. Like I said, come to podcasts like this, because the more you know, the better you'll be with yourself and your business. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. That's a high praise. And I'm looking forward to more Smart AI community folks joining us on our Friday learning session, where we learn, the foundations, where we can get comfortable and start asking questions. Because once you are asking questions, that means you're in the game. It's like you're in the football field. Maybe you're in the audience for a little bit, but sooner or later, you're going to be in the middle of the field doing quarterbacking, whatever the case is. But I missed this one thing, though. I missed the AyAyAy AI chant. I know Lucky wasn't there in the very beginning. So, Lucky,
Hey,
come on, man.
I'll take us out, man. AyAyAy. Hey,
excited.
thank you. It's nice to be back.
We do this chant every time we do this podcast, the beginning and the end. Captures all the human emotions all at once.
Yeah. It's verbal coffee, man. Now you're going to be awake.
What else to do? Let's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Until next time, see you all soon. Take care. Ciao.